Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the unboxing of the Poco X3 NFC. So it's been a while since the last Poco phone I've tested. I've actually skipped a generation, but here we are with the latest handset. This is supposed to be a huge hit in India and several other countries, and it's priced at just $240 for a handset with a 120 Hz refresh rate. How crazy is that? Okay, so it's an unboxing. We're going to focus on what's inside the box, and just so you know, we have the blue version of the handset with this gorgeous back with its racing stripe here and the camera design inspired by DSLRs. That's what Xiaomi claims, not me. By the way, we have here the version with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. Okay, now I'm going to fire up the phone. The setup has already been performed, so we won't waste time with it. Now, aside from this blue hue here, there should also be another one available, at least a black-gray one, definitely. Okay, so as it boots up, I'm going to have a look inside the box. First of all, we have this envelope, branded Poco, and here we go. We have here the key used to access the slots, and then we find the following. So we have a bunch of manuals, user guide and warranty card, and this rather beefy case which is transparent and flexible. It should also have antimicrobial properties from what I read online, which is always welcome during these tough times. Okay, the accessory list doesn't end here. We're proceeding further into the box, and if I remember correctly, even the first Poco phone adopted the colors, the combo of black and yellow. Okay, so here we are. This is the charger bundle with the phone. It's quite heavy at first touch. It's got an USB-A connector and should juice up the device at up to 33 watts. Let's see how much it takes to fully charge it. And here we have the cable, which goes from USB-A to USB-C. I've already played with it, you can already tell that. Okay, so we're done with the content of the box. No headphones here, but considering how little you're paying for the phone, I'm willing to forgive that. So once again, here we are. This is a polycarbonate back. It's multi-layered, so it can properly get all of these textures right. This version actually looks pretty cool in blue. The black one is meant to resemble metal. That's what they were going for. If you want measurements, it measures 9.4 millimeters in thickness and weighs a rather hefty 215 grams. Okay, so I think we discussed the design enough. I think it's time to talk about the core of the specs. I should probably also mention that this phone is splash proof within the IP53 standard, and the screen you're seeing here is an IPS LCD with a 6.67 inch diagonal and a resolution of 2400 over 1080 pixels. It's got HDR10, and most important of all, it's got the generous refresh rate, which you can see right here. And you can actually see an animation of how this refresh rate affects the, well, animations on the screen and the apps on the screen and the motions on display. So it's set to 120 Hz by default, which is something nice to see. And aside from that, inside we find a brand new CPU. Haven't met it before because it's rather new. We're dealing here with the let's get this out of the way. So we're dealing here with the Snapdragon 732G. And it's an 8 nanometer CPU, octa-core, clocked at 2.3 GHz with the Adreno 618 GPU. Now, there's 6 gigs of RAM here, as well as 64 or 128 gigabytes storage. We have the 128 gig one. It's of the UFS 2.1 variety. And if you want to expand the storage, you're going to have to use the microSD card slot, which shares one of these SIM slots. Now, let's see what extras we have here. So first of all, this is the flat and receded power button, which includes the fingerprint scanner. If you go to the top side, you will see an infrared emitter here and what look like microphones. Okay, and at the bottom we have the audio jack, USB-C port, and the speaker. This is only one of the speakers. We actually have a stereo setup, which is always welcome here. I'm thinking this hole may actually be associated with the acoustic experience instead of a microphone, but I'm going to have to look that up. And you just saw me authenticating with this finger and unlocking the device in a pretty fast and snappy manner. Okay, now aside from all of those things, let's see what we have on this handset. The battery is obviously one of the selling points, or at least it should be. So we're dealing with a pretty generous 5160 mAh unit with a charging at 33 watts. Okay, and there's also the promise of reaching 62% battery in about 30 minutes. So we're going to have to see about that. Now let's talk about the cameras. First of all, the selfie camera is embedded here at the top side in a punch hole. It's a 20 megapixel shooter, and what I saw on its official listing is that it can take a sort of panoramas using the front camera, which is something you don't see every day. Now going to the back side to this interesting module, which is shaped after a DSLR. Here you can see the flash, and here you can see a quad camera setup. At its core sits a 64 megapixel shooter with f1.9 aperture and face detection autofocus. There's a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera, there is a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel bokeh camera. This camera can shoot 4K videos at 30 frames per second, and I think we're about done with the camera talk, and we can discuss other things like, for example, the fact that this handset has 4G LTE connectivity. It's got a dual SIM setup, Bluetooth 5.1, Wi-Fi dual band, GPS, GLONASS and BDS plus NFC, infrared and USB-C. This is actually a MIUI 12 and on top of Android 10, and if you do several tweaks here, you can change this area, the quick settings, to look like the control center of an iPhone, and actually calling it the control center, believe it or not. Okay, now aside from that, as usual, I think we should have a quick glance at the camera interface. If you've seen a Xiaomi phone recently, you know what to expect. We have the photo mode here, we have the 2x zoom, we have the ultra wide mode like this, we have a special AI feature, we also have a portrait mode. There's also the more section with quite a few options, including vlog, front and back, time-lapse, clone, slow motion, long exposure, and even more to add. And I think if you look closely, we should also have a pro mode here. I was actually expecting a night mode, but I feel that I will keep looking for it. Maybe I find, oh, here it is. This is actually the night mode that I almost missed. Okay, so that's that, the first contact with the phone. I would say it's a rather big device, justified by the generous battery inside and by the generous screen, with its, once again, pretty generous refresh rate of 120 Hz on a handset that is not pricey. Call it anything, but do not call it pricey. One other cool aspect that this handset has to offer is the quality of the main camera sensor. It's a Sony sensor, IMX682, which is something pretty cool to have. And also gamers are taken care of with a bigger heat pipe, 70% bigger than the predecessor. And we also have a special touch sampling rate of 240 Hz to make the experience even more fluid as you do a variety of things on this device, including gaming, watching videos and others. Okay, so that's about it. First contact and unboxing with the Poco X3 NFC. We'll be back with a full review pretty soon. This is it from us. Bye bye.